Welcome back. We continue live right here at Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani and Gene Collier with you at 412-575-2600. We have a tweet in, Gene. This is from Brian Soltis, who says, where do you guys rank Georgia? They beat 2 top 15 teams. They lost to number 10 team at the time, which I think bodes well for them. Now, they're currently ranked 7th, and if they should win the SEC championship game, because I believe there are going to be other teams in front of them, Miami, Clemson, they're going to have to go head-to-head. Wisconsin will probably lose down the road. I think Georgia still has a chance to get there, Gene. You?
Yeah, I still think Georgia's probably one of the best 4 teams. I do.
Yeah, they have very impressive stuff. The one thing Miami hasn't done is they haven't beaten a good team on the road this year, and they're not going to be able to do that. They've won at home. Kurt Herbstreit took a little shot at Pitt by saying, you know, how's Miami going to lose the day after Thanksgiving in a half-empty stadium?
They are not.
By the way, congrats to Duquesne. They win again tonight for Keith Dambrot, their new head coach. They're 2-0. They beat VMI 77-61. So good stuff for them. Let's go out to the lines. We got David in Finleyville. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Good. How about you, boss?
All right.
I have 2 questions for Gene and yourself. How serious is Joe Hayden's injury, and if he's out for a long period of time, would that hurt them or not? I'll hang up and listen to you. Thank you.
The answer to the second one is absolutely. But, Gene, what do you think?
Well, there are 2 bones there in the bottom of the leg. His is the fibula. It's broken near his knee. But people have come back from that after 4 or 5 weeks. Whether or not he can do that remains to be seen. But he's done a great job for them. And, yeah, the longer he's out, the more it hurts. Now, Sensabaugh did a decent job toward the end of the Indianapolis game, but just hasn't been enough of him on tape to know what he's going to do.
Sensabaugh also knows Tennessee. He played there. He knows Marcus Mariota, so that's a good thing going into this game. But, yeah, Gene's right. You know, people have come back from where this injury is. They didn't need surgery necessarily, and I think that's what they're waiting on to see how this goes with Joe Hayden. But you could argue he's been their defensive MVP. Let's go out to line 3. That's Bert in Bell Vernon. Bert, what's up? How are you?
Okay, Bob. How are you doing?
All right, thanks.
Good. Yeah, hi, Gene. I think, you know, I was very sorry to see those guys get hurt, both Hayden and Mitchell. But I think maybe, you know, there may be a positive side to it if those guys that come in, you know, get some good work in and help and sharpen up their skills, because they're going to need as many good defensive backs as they can find at the end of the year, I would think.
Especially with New England. That's the one game, Gene. I don't think Mike Mitchell's going to play this week. He was a partial at practice today, and this was the last practice. So what do you think about him?
Yeah, I doubt he'll play. All right. So
it's a big game.
See a lot of Robert Golden in that game at that spot.
Tennessee is 6-3. They're legit.
Good team, yeah.
And if they win, they move ahead of the Steelers in the AFC with a head-to-head in their pocket.
That's right, because they'll both be 7-3.
Ben Roethlisberger said this week he despises Thursday Night Football, thinks it's miserable and they should end it. You do?
Me too.
Well, obviously the league makes money at it.
Obviously, but I think ultimately it hurts the league, because I think one of the reasons that ratings are off, especially, you know, Sunday when the majority of them are, is that Thursday game kind of breaks up the week for certain fans, and you don't have quite the anticipation of Sunday that you had before the advent of Thursday Night Football. Now, there's a big percentage of fans that ignore it completely, but I think it's had a deleterious effect. I do.
What's that word again?
Deleterious.
Deleterious. You learn something new on this show every single day. And we are deleterious right now about everything. Mark DeStefano on Twitter says, if you think the Steelers had trouble scoring against Indy, wait until Thursday. They're going to face Dick LeBeau defense. If the Colts defense had them to 20, held them to 20, they'll be lucky to score 10 against the Titans. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they know Dick LeBeau pretty well, too. I think the Steelers at home are good, and they'll be better than what they've shown. At least I've been saying that all year, and I haven't seen it yet.
No, and plus, Tennessee's defense isn't nearly as good as Dick LeBeau.
That's true. Jimmy in Monroeville joins us right now on the Sports Call. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, I had a question about who determines when that clock stops when they're out of bounds? It seems like they're out of bounds, forced out, and they're winding the clock. And then I have a couple other questions.
Take all the time you need. Go
ahead. One of the other questions is was Gene Collier involved in Mr. Obvious? And also,
was that a column or what? What are you talking about there? What does that mean, Gene?
Mr. Obvious. No, it was a a program on Mr. Obvious about his line to say he was on radio WDVE years ago.
Gene, were you?
No, I was not.
Okay. Next question, real quick.
Gaelic football. Did you ever hear of it?
What?
Gaelic football.
Gaelic, yes.
football, yeah.
Gaelic. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, we did.
All right.
All right.
Yep, we've heard of that.
Thanks. What?
We've heard Australian rules football?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the
Yeah,
first
there's a lot
thing?
of-
What was the first question?
About clock, when it starts again after guys
Yeah.
go out of bounds.
I thought it was he was complaining that it doesn't stop soon
Oh.
enough when he goes out of bounds.
Whatever. Let's go to Matt and
Thanks for that call.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? Matt,
Hey, good. How are you?
what's up?
I have a quick question. Just say they did fire Todd Haley. Who do you think would be a good candidate for the offensive coordinator coming in?
Well, they're not going to fire him. If you're looking after the season, if something happens. Now, I've seen teams fire offensive coordinators mid-season. They did in Baltimore, and they had success after that. But I don't think, again, I think people are reading way too much into this, Gene. I do. I think this is, it's one of those camera moments that was caught, and people are making it into much bigger of a deal than they are. Now, is there some communication problem at times between quarterback and coordinator? Yeah, that happens. But I don't think this is a situation that is a dire need of a change, and I think people are coming to that conclusion. And they're also upset about the stats, which...
Well, I think the offense has kind of underachieved a little bit, Bob.
I do.
And they've been bailed out by the defense. In 7 of these 9 games, they've scored 2 touchdowns. It's not very good. And another one, they scored none. So, yeah, I think there's some scrutiny on Todd Haley, but I think he's a long way from being fired. I fired him a couple of years ago after a game in Cleveland. So I have nothing to say about it. But on any Sunday at Three River Stadium, there are 65,000 offensive coordinators. That's just the nature of the thing.
Steve in South Park. Hey, Steve. Steve, are you there?
Dave from South Park.
Yeah, you're on. Go ahead.
Hey, I just a question about the college football championship.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't a team that's undefeated automatically be included? Why does it have to be a 4-game system? Just a question.
Well, are you referring to Wisconsin?
Yes, exactly.
See, Wisconsin is paying the price because their non-conference schedule is not very good. They chose to schedule teams, and BYU is normally a good guy to have on your resume, but this year they stink. Yeah. So that hurts them.
And they're in the weaker side of the Big
Right.
Ten. Right.
So you can look at their schedule, and I think that's what holds them back. I really do. I can see a scenario under which they don't even make it as an undefeated team.
Yeah,
so,
sure. That
well,
could happen to them.
It can happen because if Oklahoma keeps winning, Alabama keeps winning, one of the two, Clemson or Miami, and you're going to see, I'm telling you, if Auburn can jump over a lot of teams if they do something. So, it's not a perfect system. Should there be more teams? Yes.
16.
16 is perfect, but we'll see. All right, let's go out to Dave in Perryopolis. What's up, Dave? How you doing?
How you doing, Bob?
Okay, how are you?
Okay, I just want to make a comment about the Thursday night football games and that everybody's complaining about as far as the professional players anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they should just move it to Saturday evening for one game a week.
I would like that.
When I was growing up, Thursday night was a very special game to watch in the late 70s and early 80s. And I'm in my early 50s now, and it was really nice to see those Thursday games, but they were special, not every single week.
Thanks, Dave. We're up against the break. But, Gene, I like Thursday football only for Thanksgiving. That's my Thursday take.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like it that much then either, especially if I have to cover it.
All right, we're going to take a break. 412-575-2600. More calls on the way right here live on Pittsburgh CW.